On Sunday, the 24th of June this year, I was praying. And as I was sitting in my room, it was quite a fair way before dawn, and I was just sitting in a chair. And I was just praying, waiting on the Lord, and just talking to the Lord. And the Lord appeared to me, and he said, come. Now, I've learned, when the Lord comes to me and says, come, you go. Or you miss out on something, and you move quickly, because you've got to respond quickly. And I looked at the Lord, and his face was resolute. It was focused. And so I thought, yeah, I'll come. I'll follow you. And I found myself walking behind the Lord down a pathway until it came to an open gateway. Not a door. There wasn't any doors, but just an open gateway. And the surround of this gateway was a stone arch. The doorway was a stone arch, and there were creepers climbing all over the entrance and weeds round about. And he walked straight into this place, and so I followed him. And inside were the remnants of a garden. It had once been obviously a beautiful garden, and there were hedges and so on, but it was in a state of incredible disrepair, like it had been abandoned. There were weeds everywhere, the pathways were overgrown, the hedges had never been clipped, and there was a semblance of a garden there, but it was in bad shape. And I said, Lord, where is this place? And he looked at me and said, this is my body, the church. And I thought, uh-oh. When he said that, I felt what went through him. He had an incredible love for this garden. And I looked at it and thought, nah, didn't look good to me. But he had an incredible love for this garden. Almost to the point of like consuming love for this garden. And I thought, oh. Then his face changed, and he looked at me, became more softer, more benign. And he said, this is the outer court of most Christians' lives. And I thought about that, the outer court, the outer court. When he said that, I became instantly aware of body, soul, and spirit. The outer court was our physical body in a mess. We're supposed to live forever. The problem we've had with where we take scriptures and we spiritualize them, where God never meant them to be spiritualized, he meant them to be literal. When he said, you shall eat of this bread, you shall never die, he meant it. See? And I looked at this, and I looked at the physical body, it's in a mess. He then moved me to follow him, and he moved forward through the garden. He walked through this garden, he walked through another doorway into a smaller area. And in this room, it was covered. This one was covered. It was very dimly lit. I was aware of a candlestick on my left, but very dimly. And I was aware of a table on my right. There was something ahead of me. I couldn't see what it was. But on my right, there was a table with bread on it. And I began to just kind of look at this room. And then it dawned on me, this is the holy place. Candlestick on the left, that's right. The table of showbread is on the right. I said, yes, that's right. The problem was, the candlestick was giving off a lot of smoke, which was affecting how I could see in there. There was some light, but mostly smoke. And I thought, and then there was stuff floating through the air, like, I don't know, pornography, fear. Then I saw this big one, unbelief. All kinds of stuff floating through the air. There was good stuff as well. There was some love and other stuff, but it was mixed, and it was quite dim. And there was very little light and a lot of smoke. It's like the candlestick, the wick. There wasn't much oil getting to the wick. It was actually the wick that was burning instead of the oil. And the candlestick had not been trimmed, so there was a lot of smoke in there. And I looked at this, and I thought, I said, Lord, and he looked at me. He said, this is the condition of most Christian souls. And, it looked a real mess. And I thought, Lord, I thought we were doing well, He said, my church is doing well in some places, but this is a general condition. And I thought, I said, Lord, this smoke, what is the smoke? He said, this is the one. He said, selfish prayers that do not originate in him. I thought, oh, yeah, okay. I can understand that. Desires of the flesh. All of those things. And I thought, oh, Lord. He said, look, there's much in the church which is good, but I must do a much deeper cleansing work. And I said, okay. Well, you don't argue with the Lord. And I thought, oh. Then he moved forward. And he took what seemed to me some powder, but I realized later it was incense. And as he walked, there was another table, and it was the altar of incense. And he threw some incense on it, and poof, a cloud came up off the altar of incense. And when he did that, a veil parted. Just like that. And then we moved into another room, and I had the very distinct impression that this room was rarely visited. And I thought for a moment, hang on now. I came in through the outer court, come into the holy place. This has got to be the holiest of all. And it wasn't too bright. And I thought, no, it can't be. The holiest of all is really bright. There should be Shekinah glory in here, And I said, Lord, is this what I think it is? Then I saw the Ark of the Covenant. Then Jesus did one of these tricks. He's great at it. He became the Ark of the Covenant. And then the Ark became him. He was morphing between the two. He became, and I thought, oh, that's right. You are the Ark of the Covenant. I know where you are. That was the thing that went into the river, and we were to follow it across, the Ark. You went ahead 2,000 years of us into the River Jordan, and we were to follow you. Suddenly, Jesus began to glow. It was slow at first, but it got brighter and brighter. He just got brighter and brighter until the brilliance coming off him was kind of unbelievable. And I began to get the feeling that I was standing in eternity now. I can't explain it. Time had ceased, and I began to see galaxies passing by. I began to see black holes passing by. I began to hear the tremendous power and energy in those things. And I began to realize God has it all in control. He knows what it's doing. Everything has a purpose. Then I began to be aware of eternities past. Eternities past. We think of eternities in the future. Eternities past, and God existed. God was working, and he knew what he was doing. And it was like information was feeding into me so rapidly, and it was clear as crystal. I began to understand destiny of man, the purpose of man. And I can't all remember it all now, but at that point I knew I could. It was so clear. And I began to see destiny of man in the future. I watched as the earth was being renovated by fire, in the end of the book of Revelation. And I saw this brand new earth beginning to appear, and it was beginning to shine in the whole of the universe. It was like the whole of the universe was looking at this planet Earth. It was beginning to shine like nothing else. The Lord said, I will change the earth. The earth will become capital of the universe, and my kingdom shall continue to be extended forever and ever throughout the universe. I thought, Lord, and as much I cannot remember, understanding just flowed easily. Insight was everywhere. Purpose, destiny was clear. And I fell on my knees because I was beginning to get overload. My whole of my senses were being overloaded. And I heard this: I have put eternity in the heart of man. Tell them it's time for them to dwell there. And I began to stagger up off my knees. And I thought, Lord, Lord, what about the mess out there? And as I turned, light was flowing and fire through the holy place. And it seemed to spend a fair amount of time in the holy place. It was just energy, light and fire, and then it flowed out into the outer court. And I thought, man. And as that happened, a great transformation took place through the whole structure. And I realized this was man, body, soul, and spirit. The Lord turned to me and said, when I do this, the world will see my new creation man in his fullness. And I thought, oh, Lord, do it, do it, do it. Yeah, do it. The Lord said to me, I'm about to cleanse my temple again. And this time, my people will become living stones. And I said, how, Lord? How are you going to do this? How would you do this? And I heard a sound, really difficult to explain, and it was above me. And I looked up, and there was water flowing down one side. There was blood flowing down the other, and there was fire in the middle. And these elements mixed and went woof, right through the whole structure. And he said, it's that easy for me, I thought, Lord, you really do know what you're doing. And then he looked at me and said, I will do it. Tell them when you go to America, I'm going to do it. And I thought, wow, and I found myself sitting in my chair, and dawn was just coming up, and I thought, Lord, was that a dream? And I thought, no, I wasn't asleep. I'm sure I wasn't asleep. And I'd had a glimpse of the near future. And I knew God was going to cleanse his church.